Today in Voiceflow, I'm giving you a full demonstration from start to finish on how to build APIs to a database called Airtable. And this is for non-technical humans who need a basic explanation. Once you know how to build this integration, you will be able to create extremely powerful agents that record multiple pieces of information into your database. Let's get started. Okay, we have a very simple AI agent with 9 blocks. And these blue ones are just explanations. We'll get to those later, but I just want to show you how this works. So if we go down to test your agent, this is what the front end will look like. The agent says, what is your question? Then the user has an opportunity to ask a question. So let's say I say, how many cups of sugar can I eat in one sitting? Okay, so I asked that question, and then it says, this is not recommended, consuming it can be dangerous, blah, blah, blah. It gives me this answer, okay? And then, once it finishes its little response here, it's gonna ask me, do you wanna ask another question? So, what we're seeing here with the way that this works is that, click on one of these and then make that disappear. So it first asks the question. Here's the text, the talk block there with the message there. That's exactly what that is. And then this is the capture step, capturing the last utterance of the user. Then it posts that in the API. And if you haven't seen what post means, go back and watch my previous video about APIs. It walks you through all of the basic vocabulary and concepts that we're going to use in this video. I'll include a link in the description. So next, if it fails, it goes to this box here. If it succeeds, it hops over into this prompt step, which is basically the AI answering the question. Then it does a little bit of formatting here with JavaScript and hops into the final API, where it then posts on the same row that it created in the post. It actually is called a patch now because we're on the same row, and it patches in information, a second piece of information, which is the AI's answer to the question. Then if this API fails, it goes to this box, and that's great for our documentation. And if it succeeds, it goes to this block where it asks, do you want to ask another question? And if they do want to ask more questions, it goes back to the beginning again. What is your question? If they say, no, I'm done, it ends. So it's just 9 blocks there, and I'm going to show you how to build the whole thing. So first we will go, I want to explain the 4 tabs I have here. And first one is the demo version 1, right? So this is what I built before. Demo version 2, this is in Airtable, the database that we're going to be using. When I say database, I mean a relational database. Basically, if you think about that as a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet looking thing, a Google Sheet, if you've used Smart Sheets, it's that kind of a thing. And it has everything we need and tons of functionality and documentation. It's very good, very scalable. Then we're going to go, so this is the first time, the second type of existing, right, of what is built now. And then throughout this demo, I'm going to show you how to build that from scratch, right, with basically demo version 2 in Voiceflow and demo version 2 in Airtable. So these are the 4 tabs we're going to be working in. We'll open up one more in a minute, and that's a surprise that I'll show you. But just so you understand where we're going as we're clicking back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, I want you to be able to know where we're at. And now we'll go into the Airtable so you can see what this looks like. So here I've done a lot of testing, 169 tests now, / experiments. So this is the user ID that comes from when a user engages through the front end here, as I showed you. And here is the user question that they type in. And if you want to see the whole thing, you can type this, or you can click that or click this. Shows you the whole thing. And here we can see the whole response there. So it brings in a little bit of formatting there. Note that this is a single line text format. This is a long text, and this is a long text with rich text formatting. And I just want to show you really quick that in order to do that, we will edit the field and enable rich text formatting there. So get ready for that when we build our table. Now, in order to build a new agent, if you're not familiar with Voiceflow, and by the way, if that's you, go ahead and watch some of my earlier videos on building your first AI agent in Voiceflow. Click on New Agent there, and go ahead and type in a name. We're going to call this demo version 2, and we're going to create the project. So as that warms up, it's going to bring us to a brand new canvas where we can start building. And here it is. It's asking a question. It's kind of like wanting us to test this out. Instead, we're going to click on this, click back on the canvas to make it go away. And we're going to highlight this whole thing and just delete it. So we want to start from scratch. And if you remember from demo version 1 here, what we did is we started with a talk block and we put a message in there. So that's what we're going to do in version 2. So all you have to do is mouse over this target and do a little talk block there with the message. And we're going to call this, we're going to ask the question, what is your question? And this is talking to the user, right? And then the next thing we're going to do is add a listening step, a capture to the same block underneath. And we're going to change this from entities to enter entire user supply. And it's going to capture whatever the user, say I said supply, the entire user reply, and it captures the entire reply from the user. Next, if you look back at version 1, we see that we go into the API step. And don't let this scare you. We're going to use another block here, and we're going to go into the dev, right? You don't have to be a software developer to use this stuff. I certainly am not. It's mostly just a copy and paste kind of thing. But we're going to click on API step, and that gets us started. So you can notice that if we click here, all the goodies come up here. And the first thing we need to decide is what kind of API we're going to use. In the next video, I will probably make one on including the get step. For this one, we're going to start with post. So we're going to create a new row in that table that you saw. And then we need the URL, okay? And in order to get that documentation, we're going to need to go to our Airtable. So just as we have an Airtable here, we're going to need to create one for demo version 2. So we're going to go ahead to Airtable, and both of these systems, by the way, it's a normal login process, nothing surprising there, and it'll kind of dump you off in this little dashboard area. So I'm not going to show you how to log in. I assume you know how to log into different programs by now if you're on the internet in 2025. So what we're going to do here, is we're going to create a new one, and we're going to start from scratch. So you want this start from scratch, and even though we said start from scratch, it's going to have this little template here with 4 columns and 3 rows. And what you see here, this is a database, and that's all really a database needs to be, is a, one row and 1 column is technically a database, I guess, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to delete this one because we won't need 4 of them, but we'll use this one as the first one. And I'm just going to build this the same way that we built, here I am in demo version 1, and you can see this one has a green background, by the way, and this one has a red background. So green is the original, and I'm going to use the same variables here so that I can use the same exact code from version 1. You can name your variables, your columns, whatever you want. Just make sure that you don't change them mid process without changing the other things downstream. So you kind of want to know what those are going to be, and you can definitely change them down the line, but just know you need to change them in more than one place if you do. So we're going to call this user ID, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy it. Sometimes you just want to copy things, and I'm using Command C or Control C if you're on a PC. You just want to copy them to make sure that you don't have spelling error, or the capitalization sometimes really matters. And so I'm going to go user ID, okay, and I don't really want to change it, so I'm just bringing this over, and I'm going to call this one user ID and save it. So notice that is a single line text. And then what did I call the next one? I called it, I'm in Airtable here, and I called it user question. And this is where we capture the user's question. So back over into Airtable. Let me name the base here. Demo version 2. There we go. And so I'm going to call this second column instead of notes. I'm going to call it user question. And you can add, save that. And you can add as many columns as you want, right? You can even import things. So this next one, we know that we need it to also be a long text. And so I'm going to change that now to long text. And then, as I said earlier, we're going to need to enable rich text formatting. and save, and that'll at least enable the data to come in. So that is ready to go. Now, the next thing we're going to do as we look back, we say, okay, we're building this API, and what was the thing we needed? We need to have this URL. So in order to get to this URL, we're not just going to copy it from, we could copy it from here, but I just like to be safe and use the actual documentation from Airtable. And they've done a great job of creating an easy way to get to it. So you just click help in your table there and you go down to API documentation. And again, you can do this whenever you want in order to go from your table, and you click help to API documentation, and it brings you to this wonderful page that has everything kind of built for you. It's just wonderful. So you'll click on authentication, and right here it has the link, and it calls it a curl. It's basically a URL, but it's a command URL, and this is the link. This is just a normal everyday kind of link here. And actually, one thing that we're going to do, I'm going to demonstrate something for you. It's called table 201 or something like this now. So we're going to go in here, and it's called table 1 technically. And the reason why it looks so messed up in the link, and when we're looking at this link here, is because a space gives you this %20. It's kind of weird. What does %20 mean? It's kind of strange, right? So what we're going to do to avoid the gobbledygook there is we're going to rename the table before we copy the first link in, right? This is very important. So we're going to call this demo underscore table 2. Okay. Actually, we're going to call it demo underscore version 2 table. There we go. Okay, so note that I used underscores instead of spaces. And when I save this, I'm going to go back over here. It says the same thing right now, but watch this. If I reload this page, it's going to recreate all the documentation that we need, including renaming the table, okay? So note that the underscores are here and there's no gobbledygook percentage signs and extra 20s, right? So I really like that. And that is how we're going to copy this out of here. So I'm going to grab this whole thing. I'm just going to copy it. And then I'm going to go back to our Airtable and I'm going to paste this in. That's all we need. And just so you know, like, this is a normal link here with airtable.com in it, version 0. And then this is the name of the base. It's kind of not the name of the base, but the kind of the code of the base. And then this is the name of the table. So it has everything we need here. And of the table itself. Now, do note that this is the name of the base, and this is the name of the table. The name of the table is a thing that you don't want to change unless you change it in other places. So that's the thing that you don't want to change. You can change the name of the base without any effects. You're fine. Okay. So now that we've put our URL in, or the link, we're going to go ahead and put in a couple of headers. And the place where we get these is back to the Airtable documentation. So in Airtable, we're going to go down to our table here, and that's the name of our table here, and that's very specific to our table, as is most of this stuff in here. And there's fields, there's list records. We're going to go to not retrieve a record, but create records, and that's what this post means, that we're creating a new row in our database. So now we're going to go to create records. Okay, and this is a little bit of description about it. This is where the documentation is. So H stands for header, and we're going to grab this word authorization. This is the first word that we need, and we're going to copy it just because we want to be precisely 100% accurate in the way that it comes over. We don't want any spelling errors here. And that's the first part. Now, the value that's listed for the authorization part of the header, the value is your secret API token. So the place where we get your secret API token is here, create token. So we're going to click this link here. It'll take us to a page where we have all of our tokens listed, and we're going to create a new token. So now we're going to name the token. We're going to call this demo version 2 token. Name is not specifically, it's not going to be pasted anywhere like in the process. So don't worry about spelling errors. You can call it whatever you want. You can change it later. This is very important. So this is what it can do. This is the capacity or the capabilities of the token, what it will be able to let your database do. And I like to just add all of them because I'm never sure when I'm going to add functionality to my, and there's nothing left there. So we've got them all. I never know when I'm going to want to add functionality to my API tokens. I just put them all in there, no problem at all. And what base are we going to work with? Demo version 2. That's the base that we want access to. So we're going to create this token, and we can click create token, and we're going to copy this. Now, once you click done, you're done. You can't get back into it. So we're going to click done, and we're going to save this in a safe place here, and we're going to pop it in right there. And just so you can see what this looks like, this is, making it larger here, this is a token. Bunch of, they call it alphanumeric, right? Bunch of letters, capital, lowercase, numbers. You don't want to have to type this in ever. You always just want to do a copy paste. So you put it in a safe place, okay? And we're going to use this here in a minute. So we're going to go back here, and we've got authorization. And the value here, if you remember from in Airtable, the documentation says we've got authorization bearer, right? That's the first place with a space. So we're going to just copy this right over into Voiceflow here, and we're going to just pop it right in there. And then remember what it said in the documentation? Your secret API your secret API token. Okay, so that is the thing that we're going to need to grab now. And again, we've pasted that in our little notepad here. So I'm going to take this giant thing here. Make sure you get all of the characters with no space on the end, because those little spaces, they can mess you up. And we'll paste it in there. So now it's looking pretty much exactly like the one that we built here. Authorization bearer, right? And we know this one works. So we go back in. And this is a very common thing. Every single time you set one up, you'll probably have these components here. So now I'm going to click add another, because I need another header here. It won't be another token, but it'll be another header. So back to the documentation, and I'm going to go down to create records where I was. So this is the post request. See the word post there, and here's the word post again, by the way. And I'm going to go to this second header here, and it's going to be content type. This is the first part. And then I'm going to go to my Voiceflow to paste this in. Content type, there it is. And then I'm going to put in the value. And the value that it lists for content type is application/JSON. And that's said JSON if you're not familiar. If you want more background information on this, go watch my previous video, and I'll put the link in the description. So we're going to go back to the Voiceflow, and that's the value there, application/JSON. So I don't want to add another, I'm done. I'm just going to click away from it, and if I click on this again, it shows both those things. We know those are loaded in. We don't need a parameter for this one, but we will need the body. So let's look at what we did and what it looks like for, I'll just click off of this. So this is the body, okay? And we want to click raw here in order to get to, this is my version 2 body. So it starts with form data, but really we want the raw, right? Like it says in the other one. So this now is going to be a little bit of code, and we don't have to write the code necessarily. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy and paste this, and I'll show you where I've got this from. It's just this stuff here. And like you can, it's got records, it's got fields, and it's got whatever fields are needed. And down here, it's like, it doesn't know what fields you want to include, but here it kind of says, okay, here are the 3 that you, or the ones that you have to pick from. And there's this one for created time, like you can include that if, but what we really want is we want to have only the stuff that we absolutely need. And here I've worked with a developer, and I know this isn't super repeatable for you, but if you use this pattern and say, okay, for a post request, this is what I need. And so this is the pattern. And so you're going to get this. And then if you need to change the titles of your headers, sorry, I called them headers, but of the variables, the columns, usually call a column a header, but in this case, a header is obviously something different. So I don't want to call it a header just to mess you up here. But if you want to change the names of the variables, the columns in your database, you can do that, and you can change these to that. And if you want to grab something like a last utterance entity, like you can grab that and this is exactly how it will look. So if you want to do something a little different, you can make this work for you. So if you want to post something else in there, you can post something else. You can add fields on there, and the fields are just those, they're those variables. So we're going to grab this, and I just deleted the whole thing. So don't push the space button once you've selected it. It doesn't select very dark, but this is it. And so we're going to pop this in here, and there it is. So we know that this will work. I've made it work before, and it works again today. Tomorrow they may change something, and you'll have to figure out what the latest updates were, but for now this will work. And notice that it's a very symmetrical looking formula. You've got for each curly brace, you've got another curly brace. For this bracket here, you've got a symmetrical bracket down there. For this curly brace, you've got this one. And for this curly brace, you've got its counterpart here. So if you're wondering, did I copy in the right stuff? Did I paste in the right stuff? Just make sure that it looks very symmetrical. And there should not be a comma at the end. There are commas when you're listing something, like here, it's a list of 2 items, but there should not be a comma at the end. Just make sure that, because that will mess you up if there's a comma at the end. Now, this is the body, and we're ready to move on. So what else have we got in here? We've got one more thing, and this is the capture response. So it's the thing that we're actually going to get from the table, from the database. And if you think about this, like, we're posting something in the database, but in this API, it's kind of fun because although we're posting something to the database, with my previous video, the analogy was a restaurant, and you're putting food in the kitchen when you're doing a post. But also, it kind of lets you know, it gives you a little receipt, if you will, and says, you know, we're going to post the food in the kitchen, but we're also going to let you know that we posted the food in the kitchen. And we're going to give you this little piece of information here that is called a record ID. So I'm going to grab this, and records 0, and this is something we got from ChatGPT. We said, hey, here's the situation, here's all our stuff here, here's the documentation in Airtable, and what should we do as the object? And this is what it gave us. So we got this, and we're going to put it in here. And if you want to build this exact thing, you can put this in, and then when you tweak it, you can figure out, okay, I tweaked this piece, how should I tweak the object? So that's kind of the pattern, and I'll show you a bunch of more examples so that you can kind of get the pattern, right? It's not about the, making things identical. It's about understanding what the pattern is so that you can use this over and over again for your own template. So, okay, so we have the object here, and then as you saw here, we're going to call this the record ID. So we're going to pick here, and there's, I can't remember if we have it in the list here. If you don't see it in your list, it just means you need to type it in, and underscore ID, all lowercase. I'm going to click off of it here. Oh, let's see. I think I needed to put add. So I'm scrolling to it again. See, it says it's not done yet. Variable is missing. Okay, click on that. And I'm going to click record underscore ID again. And I need to click add, right? So then it's going to say, oh, is this what you want? And this little guy, that means it's an entity. It's a thing that you can call on later. Sorry. And that is what we want. So record ID, create variable. So now we've created a variable, and that is going to be used in a little bit. So you might be asking yourself, how do I know if this thing is working or not? Well, one thing we can do to be helpful is we can add a failure path. And by adding a failure path, we can tell if and when it is not working. And in order to do this, we just add this little talk box here. And in the message here, we're just going to say failed. And we're going to actually add the word post, because we'll have a second API in a few minutes. And here we're saying the post failed. Okay, so we know exactly what happened if indeed it fails. Heaven forbid, but let's test it out. So here we go. And what's your question? How much does it cost to get a mullet? Okay, and then it's going to respond. Chat is ended. And that's all we have built so far. But let's look at our API. And here we go. And I've done some other testing here, so ignore that. But this test reveals that it did capture the user ID number, and it captured the user question. So this is my question: how much does it cost to get a mullet? And it captured it. So it did the post. There we go. Proof. Now we're going to go back, And if we indeed have success, we're going to go up here and build a step called the prompt step. And it is right here. We did a bunch of testing, and let me tell you, there are 3 reasons why we chose to use the prompt step instead of the Voiceflow brand new agent AI step, and those are as follows. Number 1, the AI step had trouble exiting the conversation and moving on to the next step. It loves to just keep the conversation rolling right there. Number 2, the AI step didn't automatically set the value for the last response variable. There was some trouble in there. It does a lot of different responses, and so it might go back and forth, and it just wasn't setting that variable and pushing it in through the API. Number 3, we didn't need this step to handle a lot of back and forth with the user. We just needed one answer to a question, and we think that this helped kick it to the next step more effectively based on the experimentation that we did. So that's why we chose the prompt step, and we're just going to label it here the prompt step. I'm going to call it the AI prompt step, just so we know what it is. It's good practice to label your things here. And then to build this, basically we're going to prompt it with the user, the last utterance of the user. And that's how we kind of call something in. We use those curly braces and we call it in. And that's going to be the prompt. If you think about, using ChatGPT or Claude or Grok, you have this user utterance that usually you just type in there, but in this case we're taking it from earlier in the conversation, whatever the user typed in, and we're going to grab that and make the API answer that question. So pardon me, we're going to run this, and then after this we're going to go into a little step just for the cleanup of the formatting. And I mentioned in here before with our Airtable that the AI response step has the rich text formatting, and there's just a couple things that we need to do in order to pull that in so that it receives all the hard returns and stuff like that, all the content after the hard return and so on. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this JavaScript step, and it's just going to be one simple line that we came up with from, this is the original, again, version 1. And we've just built this using, I'm going to do a Control A to highlight the whole thing, Control C, and I'm going to bring it in here. And we just used ChatGPT to create this. This is for 100,000 up to 100,000 characters, and it just cleans up that formatting. So I'll include this below. I'll include the code that we're pasting in for these different APIs, just so that you can copy and paste right from my description into yours if you want, and it'll all be there. If you need to make your own, I recommend just asking questions. ChatGPT or Gemini 2.5 is really good at these things. Sonnet 3.7 is pretty good with code, and it'll help you adapt this for your own use if you need. So I'm adding this, and then we're going to look back at see what we did last time, and see we didn't even have a fail step. It's just like, but we can. In fact, it would be probably better. We'll make a little improvement. So there will be 10 blocks on this one. We're going to have this one go out, and we're going to have it tell us if it fails. And I don't know why that would be, that it would fail there, but it'll be nice if it just says JavaScript failed. Okay, and then we know for sure. Now in the next step, we're going to do another API. See, just like our last one, we're going to drag it down here, and we're going to use again the dev step, right? Because it's a little bit of software development for non-software developers here, and it's this API step. And instead of get, we're going to use what? Patch this time. And really, this is kind of a little cheat here, but we can go in and grab the URL and we can pop it right in here. So we didn't have to go back to the documentation Airtable. We just copy it from our first one because it's the same table that we're using here. And then when we go to the headers, it's going to be the same thing as well. So we go into post and we look, it says authorization, and I can copy that and paste it into the patch here. So new header, authorization, click, and then what's the value? The value is going to be this bearer and the full ID there. and I didn't grab all of it. I'm just going to do Control A for select all and then copy it there so I make sure I get the whole thing. I'm going to slip back into my API here. I'm going to paste that for the value, and that header is now done. So I'm going to add another one, and then I'm going to go back to this one, and I'm going to see, okay, yes, this was the content type, right? And if I just hop back in here and I start to type content type, it's right there in the list because I've used it before in this workflow. Then I'm going to start to type application. It didn't pull anything up, but that's what it needs to be. That's the same thing as last time, just double checking my spelling there. And now that we've done that, we don't have to click add another, we just click off of it. And when we click on, we double check it's all there. We don't need any parameters. Same thing with last time. We're going to go to the body and click raw. And instead of adding the same thing, it actually can be a little bit simpler this time, a little bit less code, because the field that we need is just one field. So all we need is this 5 simple lines of code, and 3 of the lines are curly braces. So we're going to paste this in. And again, we can double check that it is symmetrical. Curly brace, curly brace, curly brace, curly brace. And it highlights its opposing and opposite curly brace, which is very nice. And all we need to say is we're going to call a field, and we're going to put something into the AI response, and this is what it's going to be called. If you put the curly braces on there, it will go into your table with curly braces. So we don't want the curly braces in there. We just want the whatever that last response was from our AI prompt. That's what's going to go in. And I'm going to add the failure path, and it says failure. Yep, that's what I want. And then I'm going to do the same thing I did right here with a post failed little message. And I love to have a little message when the post fails. This is going to be a patch, right? So I'm going to say patch failed. And if this patch fails, we will know it now. That is the path. If I have success, it's going to go to a new block, and I'm going to tell it to do a talk step, and it's going to say, do you have another question? And I'm asking this to see if I can follow up on additional curiosity. And then I'm going to say using I'm actually going to use buttons this time because this is for a text-based bot. And if you use if this is to make phone calls, you don't want to do buttons. You want to use intents in order to do that. And I'm going to have 2 options here. And I'm going to say, yes, I have another question. And the second one will be, you guessed it, no, I don't. I'm done, right? And so those are the 2 options that will appear there. And I just need to do one thing, I think, before I get this thing going for my API. And it is to say the thing that we need. And if you look back at this one, there's this record ID here in version 1. This is the thing that I need so that I can know where to put my information. It kind of zeroes in on the part of the table, I believe. And I'm going to paste that in there. Well, that came out weird. But I know that it is /record ID. And I can just pick that from the list. So just to double check I've got the right thing, I'm going to look again. And I'm teaching you a pattern here. It's not because I'm dumb, but I want to go back and forth double checking things from where I got it from, whether it was the documentation or a previous iteration that I have tested a bajillion times, or from ChatGPT where I produced something. I want to go back and check what I did. So I'm going to look and see, okay, it is a / and then it says record ID with those curly braces. And that is correct. So I'm looking through everything. I've got my 2 headers. I've got the raw, no parameters needed, no capture response. I've got my failure path. Everything's looking good. So now I'm going to just clean this up a little bit. I'm going to ask it if it does succeed, do you have another question? I've got my buttons there. And if the user doesn't have another question, then we're just going to use something called an action, and it is the end, bye-bye. If they do have another question, then I'm going to zoom out a little bit for this. I'm going to go all the way back to here. And this, by doing this, it makes it so that I don't have to build a whole nother I don't have to build a whole nother thing. I can just loop back to it, right? And I like to have my, you see how this is like behind everything? I like to have them like nice and out in the open. And so I'm just going to move it so that I can see that pathway very clearly. And same thing is kind of weird with this one, right? So I'm going to move it over here so that I can see exactly what's happening without my eyeballs having to wonder everything, anything. Okay, so now this is looking pretty good here as far as the layout goes. Let's test it out, and let's use the console this time. And it's going to ask me if I have another question. I'm going to say, what is the square root of a large number of this number here? Whoops, no W's there. What is the square root of this number? Okay, and then, so I've asked my question, and it's going to peg down to here as it goes. Boom, boom, boom. It looks like it gave me the answer, and then it's asking me if I have another question. So it looks like everything fired properly, because it would have stopped dead in its tracks if either of these APIs, if the post failed or if the patch failed, it would stop on that block. And don't worry, you'll get that plenty as you build these, and you'll have to test your way through it and incrementally build your way through it. But in this case, everything fired correctly. API call successfully triggered. Variables changed, right? And it basically, before the variable was blank. It was a blank box. But if we go to our API now, you can see this new row for the test user. Yeah, it put in my question. It put in the AI response. And if we expand this here, you can see the whole response there. And it is wonderfully done. It works. And for today, and as long until they make the next major change, this is how you can build a post and a patch API in Voiceflow with connection to Airtable, and be posting and patching information there to your heart's content. If you made it this far, give me a like if you like this video, subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.